I've been given one of these to have a look at by a customer with a view to reselling it. The battery pack being there. This is a Dyson DC30. I'm not sure, I think it's a first generation one. It's a 14.8 volt battery pack, lithium ion. So it's probably going to be 4 cells. I believe it does have some life in it. Let's have a look. Oh, even without putting a load on it, just gets out straight away. So the complaint being that it runs for about a minute on full charge, assuming that the charger is working, of course. Just assume that the battery pack is old. I think it's about 5 or 6 years old. I had a look on eBay and Amazon for these battery packs, and there was some there from about £26 up to about £50. These were clones, copies, and there was some on the Dyson site which were about £90, which is why the customer brought it in. But the Dyson site didn't say what voltage the pack was, because this one is 14.8 and every other one on eBay and Amazon, they were 22.2 volt pack, which wouldn't do for this one. There was another thing as well. I'll get the battery out and I'll show you. This battery pack is apparently a Type B one. The only ones available were a Type A. The only difference being, this is a Type B when it's got this extra bit of plastic here for a screw to hold it onto the main unit. The Type A's were available, but not these Type B's. So I said that to the customer, and he says, yes, okay, go ahead. Now I know, I've seen some of the people doing videos on these, and they're almost impossible to get into. There's loads of clips on sides and top, and then the bottom. Let me just show the legend on there. I think it says on top there, 14.8 volts, 1300 milliamp hours. So we're going to have a go at that. And so after faffing about with things like spudgers for about 5 minutes, I realised that was never going to work. Out came the cutting tool. I've got that apart. It looks like a mess, but I told the customer it's going to be a taped finish anyway. I'd be lucky if it didn't wreck the pack. But what I did was, there are clips there and there. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 clips all holding it together. So it's never going to work with spudgers. So I just cut the clips off. I managed to, after about 20 minutes total of mucking about, to relieve this from its housing. Okay. And I even managed not to destroy the board on there with the cutting disc when I was just gently trying to get the clips off. Okay, so as I said, that is a 4 cell pack. One there's empty and the one probably there's empty as well. What I'm going to do before replacing these, I'm going to attempt to charge it and do a discharge test, just in case the battery is fine and maybe this hoover is clogged up with dirt. It's old fashioned, it's a hoover, it's not a vacuum, it's a hoover. Okay, so I'm going to try and charge it up and see what happens. Before I get into the charging of it, I'm going to show you the charger, or the power adapter, whatever. This had me fooled for a little while. If I can hold that, if that could be seen. This is a dual output, dual voltage charger. So it had me fooled. So it's 14.8 and 22 volts. So it depends what kind of battery pack it's plugged into. I was thinking, how's that going to work with a jack plug? But this is a special jack plug. Put that over there. This has got 3 poles to it. It's got an outer there, show that, and it's got an inner inside the tube, not the middle pin, and then it's got the middle pin. Clever. So they've made this charger with a view to doing the 4-cell and 6-cell packs. Don't know why I've kept it, it needs charging. Perut. That charger's gone straight to green. Okay. Let's measure some cell voltages. So it might not be the battery pack, it could be the charger. 3.9, 3.9, 3.9, and 3.9. Now that's nowhere near full. These should be about 4.1 volts at least with a charger. Does that green mean it's charging or fully charged? Take it out and see what happens. You thought that would be red or flashing red when you're for charging. Flashing green, solid green. Let me think about this. After a couple of minutes of pondering on this, I've decided to just plug that in. Flashing green straight onto green. Leave that for 5 minutes. I know these cell voltages are about 3.9. Just see if they rise. So that's how it works, is it? The light on the power supply has gone off after about an hour. So we can check some voltages. 4.06. Same. Okay. So that's what they charge up to, 4.06. If I should just do a discharge test on this. Now I know that the power supply is working, and also that the board on this is also still working. So here's the plan. I'm going to do a discharge test on this. I've attached a couple of wires to the positive and negative, and it's 16 point something volts. There's 4.06 each. Do a discharge test with one of these. West Mountain Radio discharger, computerized. Just hook up the clips to the other side of the wires here. Let's see what we get. So that's all hooked up. Nothing nefarious or cheating about this, I'll show you. The other side of the crocks go to the discharger. Keep those wires separate. I've set some parameters on there. Lithium ion 40.4 volts, 4-cell 1.3 amp hour. A cut-off voltage on 12 volts, 3 volts per cell. That should be sufficient. And test amps on 3 amp. These cells are probably 5 amp maximum. 23C discharge capability, so we'll be kind. Let's keep it on 3 amps. And here are the results just in. can be seen ran for about 15 minutes more or less. Gave 744 milliamp hours or 0.7 amp hours, just over half its capacity. Watt hours, more or less 10 watt hours. The pack is supposed to be 20 according to the label on it. Get that a little bit closer so you can see the... Okay, that's enough. And that's the discharge curve it gave. Not too bad. Onto that. Now, I was kind of hoping that this battery pack would be worse than this. So I tested some before and they start off here and then just go boom, they just collapse, they fall off a cliff. Just another thought as well on this. Seeing that this has got a control board on it. You know, it's, oops, shot out, cheeky sod. Yeah, so sometimes when you take these cells off, they refuse to charge again because they've got like a suicide chip on board. And when you resell them, when the cells go down to 0, they refuse to charge up again, so that's one concern. Just one more thing I should mention on this is the test I've done on this was done at 3 amps. It's not going to be a true measure of its capacity. You should only be discharging it at about 250 milliamps. But this is more of a real world test, because when this Hoover's working, there's no way it's going to be working at 1/4 of an amp. So here's the plan. I've got some new cells in. These are Samsung 25Rs, good for 20 amps, from a good reputable seller, I hope. So what I'm going to do is, well, my main fear is going to be that if I disconnect the voltage from this board, that it won't charge up again. There's probably some intelligence there. So what I've got on the go is, so I'm going to make up a 4-cell pack out of some old ones I have lying about, some salvage ones, and connect the battery pack up to the original, as I'm going to charge up to the same voltage as this, which happens to be lying on about 15.5 volts. I'll charge up a pack made up out of these to the same voltage, and I'll tack some wires onto it, onto the original. So I put these individually into a charger. I'm trying to get these cells up to about 3.9 volts each, so when I put these in the pack, they'd be the same voltage as that, which is about 15.5 volts. It's within about half a volt or similar. 3.9, 3.85, 7. That's close enough. And here is the substitute or dummy pack that I've made up. 4 cells, same configuration as this. It's made up of the old salvage cells. So what I'm going to do is piggyback this pack onto this. So when I remove the original cells, the board will still have its expected voltage on it. Okay. Let's solder the wires onto there. See this pack over here, that's negative that side, positive on that side. substitute pack, negative this side, positive there. Also got the balance wires as well, so I'm going to not just do the whole pack voltage but the balance points as well. Solder the negative onto that tab there, then corresponding wires, just do one cell at a time until we reach the positive side. Yes, it's untidy, yes, it's a lot of faffing about. I don't really know if it's necessary to keep the voltage onto the board, but safety first. So if I take these cells out without doing this, I may never charge up again, so it's worth a little bit of time. Stay. So now I can go on to taking these original cells off tidily, I hope, because I want to reuse these the tabs. Now that's one side of it done. So I've attacked that gently with a flat blade screwdriver to lift the tabs off, and soldering them as I go. Put a bit of masking tape on some of them to stop me shorting it out. You can see I was wondering how these batteries come out. The housing has got a little spring clip on them, so these will only come out one way. This one will come out this way, and that one needs to be pushed down, say the alternate ones. Okay, so on that side, and now to do the other side the same. And that's the second half done. So it's always good to, after leaving these off, to some pliers and straighten them out. Adding some solder as I go. Now it's time to remove the cells. That's the first cell out. You'll need to remove some of this, whatever it is, some sort of rubberized backing tape kind of thing, otherwise it's not going to slide out. Just have a look at these cells, see if any identification on them. There is. Possibly can't see that. It says 1280 mAh on there. So I'm going to be replacing them with I think these are about 2000 odd. Okay, I'll do the same for the rest of them. I'll take them out and remove this spongy tape on them. And we got there in the end. A bit of faffing about. Some of these were fairly tight to get in. We got them in to the right place. So now all we need to do is to solder the original contacts back on. And those people that are watching this, if someone was awake, you'd have noticed that I put the cell in the wrong place. Put it into there instead of into there. And it was a bugger to get back out. But it's all fine now. Let's go ahead and solder those. Now that's it, soldered all back up together. Still got the dummy pack attached to it. You can see that's fine. People say you can't solder to things. So now for the acid test, I'm going to hook up to the charger and see if it actually works. I'm going to get all of this in shot now. I've got things all over the place. Oh. Let's try like that. Show the charge. The lights off for the moment. Plug that into its receptacle. hopefully. Ha 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 ha, green lights. Back to the beginning of this, I think it was a green light, steady green light for charging, and it goes off when it's done. Oh, fantastic. I half expected to see the blinking red light of death. No, that's fine. So I'll disconnect the dummy pack, otherwise it's just going to be charging both of them. So that's the dummy pack disconnected from it. It's a standalone pack now. Go on, baby. And charging. Fantastic. And that's been on charge just a little under 3 hours. The green light's gone off. See what the voltages are. 4.1 near enough. 4.1. 4.1. I missed one out. 4.1. Great stuff. And for my own benefit and for comparison with the original pack, I've tacked a couple of wires onto there, positive and negative. I'm going to do a discharge test. The original one was about 770 something milliamp hours. Let's see what this one gives. That's a big difference. This is the new cells curve. Can we see that? 2215 milliamp hours as opposed to the original 770 something. Test time 44 minutes. The original was about 15. I'm going to run another test on this just for curiosity's sake. I'm going to charge this up again. I'm going to discharge it through its proper terminals, if I can do that on the top there, just to see if it'll run this long, because it's going to depend on this BMS. It's going to control its discharging rate, just in case there's some sort of issues there. Just covering all bases. And that's given me amp hours, or milliamp hours, 2100. Show you what I mean by discharge it through the terminals. Just put a couple of strips of brass in there. I don't know if that's focused into the positive and negative. The wires out to my test units. So now I can give that a final charge and then try and retrofit this back into its case. That's it, all back together. With some helpers and tape, good old tape. I did say to the customer it would be a taped finish. That's fine. Putting it back together was simpler than getting it apart. Which it looks like there's a long screw in there. What I didn't know when I started disassembling this, there's a shorter screw in there. It's hidden by the filter. I've got a little addendum here, there's one thing I forgot to say. I'll plug that back in. Oops. Sticking a screw hole instead. Yeah. Yes, the charging situation with this, when I ran this, when the new cell's down flat, it's about 12 volts, and charged it up again, this cut out after about 4 hours without totally charging the pack. And with the benefits of it being open, I can measure the cell voltage. It only charged them up to about 3.7 volts each, so I had to just disconnect it and connect it back up again for it to fully charge. Some people may have had that issue before when you plug this in and you think it's fully charged when it's not. And finally, a proper test. It's already running a lot longer than the original pack did. That's it. Job done. Back to the customer. If anybody found that useful, as always, feel free to buy me a kebab.